Hey guys, welcome. So we'll just wait for a few people to log in. So we have 0 people watching so far. It's 5:30 p.m. UK time on Thursday, the 13th of June. Hey guys, welcome. Feel free to say hi in the chat comments. Just give it a few more moments, just see if a few more people log in. Hi Drunatic, nice to see you here. Or maybe get started because we only have one person logged on. And I think my YouTube account, oh no, we have 0 now. Hi, Lilypad. Okay, so oh no, it's got to be down there, isn't it? That's the whole point. So if you can see this, hi Tarek, welcome. So can you guys see this image clearly enough? So this, I believe, is called the Vitruvian Man. I might just Google that because I'm not 100% sure. Vitruvian Man. Vitruvian Man images. Yeah. So this is Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. The top part at least. And so Leonardo da Vinci was a member of a mystery school, in my opinion. It seems a lot of these geniuses from those times were members of the mystery schools that were, most of them, in my understanding, like passed down from ancient Egyptian wisdom, from the initiatic schools of ancient Egypt. And they sort of went underground, and some of them were positive, some of them were less positively oriented. Some were service to others, some were service to self, we could say. And so I assume Da Vinci was of one of the more positive kinds because he seemed to do a lot of attempt to do a lot of positive things for humanity. And so this image at the top, this man, this is called Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. And so I believe, well, I'm sure it's the evidence sort of speaks for itself in a way, but I believe that Da Vinci studied sacred geometry in some mystery school, and this is where a lot of his knowledge came from, and certainly on things like this. So for this talk, we're not going to concentrate so much on Vitruvian Man, because I don't actually know that much about that. I see it seems to be a pentagram in the background. If anyone knows anything about this Vitruvian Man, feel free to share. Possibly do some more research for another video. But the section we're going to focus on tomorrow, which is something I've been researching for many years, is this. This called sometimes called the golden mean. This number is called the golden mean. Sacred spiral of life. I'm not sure what it's called actually. And so I'm going to talk about how this works and how we can use this to really accelerate our calling, our life path, our life purpose, and manifest in physical reality a reality that reflects our calling in this reality. And how we can use this sacred science of the ancients to actually creating reality, creating this physical reality. And incidentally, this was some of the highest knowledge of, or certainly some high knowledge of ancient Egypt. And most, if not all of their temples were built on the principles of sacred geometry. There's a specific temple in Karnak, I believe, that is devoted to sacred geometry, and they build a bits like every year to sort of represent the continual growth of life. And that is what this symbol represents. It represents the growth of life, the expansion of consciousness, the expansion of the universe, the expansion of all physical reality, and how reality grows. It can be seen very clearly in like the growth of a snail shell or ram's horns, or in the spiral patterns on a pine cone, or in galaxies. And it also relates like everything in the physical human body, how the length of the arm is 1.618. This number 1.618033988749895 goes on for infinity, but that's a rough estimation. We often just call it 1.618. So the human arm is 1.618 times longer over its whole length than it is from there to there, from the elbow to the shoulder. The whole length is 1.618 times longer than there to there. And so this relates to this spiral. So where to start? So if we can look at this spiral and see right in the center, it's made up of like cubes as well, or rectangles, like rectangle, cube, 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 like growing cubes. And so how this is worked out, the science behind this is very simple. It's basically 1 + 1 = 2. So you start with 1, and then you add that number to itself, 1, and you get 2. And then what you do is you add 2 to the previous number, which was 1, and which gives you 3. Then you add 3 to the previous number, which was 2, which gives you 5. And then you add 5 to the previous number, which was 3, which gives you 8. Then you add 8 to the previous number, which is 5, which gives you 13. And then you add 13 to the previous number, which is 8, which gives you 21. You add 21 to the previous number, which is 13, which gives you 34, something like that. So you get the idea. Well, this is how this is growing. It's 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 1 = 3, 3 + 1 3 + 2 = 5, 5 + 3 = 8, 8 + 5 = 13, 13 + 8 = 21, 21 + 13 = 34. And see, this is how it grows, and this is how the spiral nature of reality comes into manifestation, comes into birth, and this is how all life is created ultimately. Everything grows in the universe, as I understand it, according to these principles. And of course, we can see it most clearly in how the snail shell grows, the nautilus shell, I think they call it, like ram's horns, how certain like pine cones. And hold on, I've got a prop. Give me 1 second. Hi. I'm back. So can you see the spiral nature of that pine cone? That is growing according to these principles. This is how this spiral nature is grown. And I think if we added them up, there's like 2 spirals going in one direction. So maybe I can count them up. If I count this spiral, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, that way. And in the other way, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Well, that didn't work quite perfectly. But anyway, you can see how the sometimes you see when you measure the spiral one way and then the other way, you see the two different. No, you see the two consecutive numbers like 5 and 8, or 8 and 13, or 13 and 21. So we weren't far off. Maybe I miscounted. Yes, galaxies also form in the same way in this spiral, the spiral nature of galaxies. And so we can see this pattern, this simple mathematical pattern in this pine cone. And of course, we can also see it very clearly in the snail shell. Going in the same way, we see this pattern here, and possibly even in this flower. Like, can't quite focus, but like, I'm sure this flower would have grown to a very similar spiral pattern. And incidentally, the ancient Egyptians gave great devotion to this sacred geometry and to the cyclical nature of life. And this is what we're going to get into in a minute, the cyclical nature. And this is what the scarab beetle represents. This is an ancient Egyptian. If you ever go on holiday to Egypt, you'll probably see these everywhere. And they sell them as tourist stuff. But there's also like big scarabs in the temples, and you're supposed to walk around them 7 times, I believe, and it brings you good luck. And this is possibly to do with the 7-year cycle of creation. And I've actually got a theory that we're on a 9-year cycle of creation, but it seems to be somehow connected to the 7-year cycle of creation. And we're going to get into this in a bit. So the scarab beetle represents death and rebirth and the cyclical nature of reality, which is actually more the spiral nature of reality, because it's like death. We go through this spiritual expansion, we reach heights of enlightenment, and then we get a new challenge and it destroys us and we surrender, and then we start again and we keep going around in the circle and getting higher and higher and higher. And this is sort of what the scarab beetle represents, because what it does is it buries its eggs in a ball of dung, and it rolls the ball of dung along, and it's like a cyclical nature, and then the eggs are birthed out the dung, out of the dead. So it's very symbolic of death and rebirth and the cyclical nature of reality. And so I'm going to explain how we can use this to create our own reality. And I guess I'll use an example from my own life, from my own experience. So you may have seen some of my other videos where I talk about this 9-year cycle of creation, how we seem to be going through these 9-year cycles. And these cycles go on like daily. We go through daily cycles, as you probably know. Wake up feeling like crap, have to meditate to get yourself into a higher state, follow your excitement. And this process, it's like death and rebirth every night. So we're going through this cyclical nature every day. But there are bigger cycles all the way up to like huge cosmic cycles of like, there's the Hindu teachings of the yugas, where like we're in the Kali Yuga, which is something like 160,000 years long or something. And it goes all the way up to infinity with huge great cycles. And so, but the cycle I use as an explanation, as a demonstration, is the 9-year cycle that I talked about before, how we seem to be going through this 9-year cycle of awakening, which is perhaps also connected to the 7-year cycle, because a lot of people talk about 7-year cycles. And I seem to remember when I was in Egypt, you were supposed to walk around the scarab 7 times. So it just makes me think of that. But I've got this theory that we're on a 9-year cycle, it certainly seems very relevant to my reality, and I'm sure it's very relevant to your realities. Likely. So if we explain this in... So I'll explain the cycle that I've been through recently, but basically in 2007, so I'm basing this on a 9-year cycle. In 2007, I became consciously aware of like conspiracy theories and the fact that there's other stuff in our reality than what the mainstream media, portrays. And in 2008, I got into UFOs, ETs, Bashar, certainly to the end of 2008, beginning of 2009. And 2009, I got heavily into Bashar's teachings, listening to them every day. And September 2009, had a massive ET contact experience in the forest. And this is that contact point is what I've denominated personally as the beginning of my 9-year cycle. So from that point on, September 21st, 2009, I had this contact experience. Then we went through this cycle again. So what I believe is happening is that towards what would be 9 years after 2007, so 2015, I sort of became interested in conspiracies again, or certainly around that time. It might have been 2014, 2015. It was when Bentinho Massaro started talking about conspiracies. It was only for a few months, a short part of his teachings. So it's interesting to see if that was 2015. I might look at it later because that would be an exact 9-year culmination. So around 2015, I became interested in conspiracies again. I stayed away from them because I was concerned they were getting too dark and I was manifesting negative realities. But 2015, I started getting interested in conspiracies again around this time. It doesn't have to be exactly to the date, but around this time, because 9 years prior, and I believe I'm in this 9-year cycle, I was interested in that. And then I guess towards the end of 2008, which 9 years later would be towards the end of 2017, I became more interested in the ET consciousness aspect of it. And it was certainly at that time I began to become more drawn to the ET stuff. I began to move away from the spiritual path, just the pure self-realization path, and began to talk about contact again and have a bit more of an interest in first contact. Certainly around this time. And then in 2018, exactly 9 years to 1 week, to 10 days after the first contact experience in 2009, I had the contact experience again. I actually made some videos saying that I thought we were going to go through some big shift or something because I sensed something was coming. And so I had this experience again 9 years later. And since then, I'm going through a lot of similar experiences. Like my life seems to be repeating itself. Basically, after this experience, last time it happened, I decided to stop working and just trust that money would come out of the universe. And it didn't really work. Well, it did ultimately work, but at first it didn't. For I just got in massive debt, and my bills didn't get paid by magic, as you might imagine. But actually what happened was, after about a year of this, the debts got so out of control that I just sort of surrendered to it. And my car was broken down. I was totally in debt. I couldn't pay any of it. So I just surrendered. It's like I had no choice. You know what I mean? You, at some point, you're just forced to surrender. If you can't see a way out, what else can you do? It wasn't like any big spiritual great thing. It was just like I had no choice. I had to surrender. But at that point of surrender, all of a sudden, little miracles started happening. I got put onto a debt management company, which helped me reduce my debts and get it all paid back automatically. They sorted it out for me for a small fee. And my friend offered to sell me a car on hire purchase because he was starting selling cars, and I could pay him back over time. And everything sorted out as soon as I surrendered, which is always the case if you've ever explored reality creation. When you finally surrender, that's when stuff really starts happening. But to get back to the point, yeah, it's all happening again. This has happened again. This time it wasn't like I chose to not pay my bills. This time I physically couldn't pay my bills because this contact experience like literally knocked me for six, and I was totally ungrounded, and I couldn't do any gardening. I couldn't do any channeling, certainly. I couldn't do any spiritual work online. I was able to do a tiny little bit of gardening now and again just to get a little bit of money just to buy some food. Luckily, my parents let me stay with them, so it all worked out great. And so the point is that it was happening again. It was the same thing that happened 9 years ago, and other things have happened. Like I signed a year after. In 2010, I started a traditional sort of UK spiritual course, sort of crystals and angel Reiki and magic and tarot cards and all this stuff. I got interested in that and joined up for that course exactly a year after the experience in 2010. And I've now got inspired to sign up for that exact same course again with the same person for some reason. And I'm starting that this September, which will be exactly a year later. So there's other things I've seen, and also around, I saw this coming. I began to sense into this energy that we were starting a new cycle. I see this on a collective level as well. It's not just happening to me. It's like a lot of people seem to have gone through this. Like I've been a big follower of Bentinho Massaro for a while. I know his names have become a little bit controversial, but I like him, you know what I mean? His teachings are epic. No matter what you think of him personally, his teachings are fantastic. And I bring him up because he seems to be somehow tied into this 9-year cycle. Like he's sort of gone back to square one. It's like he's stopped teaching properly, you know, on a large scale. He went back to India, which is where it all started for him around 9 years ago, I believe. I don't know his exact life story, but it seems to be sometime around that timeline. And it seems like people like Bentinho and a lot of people are going through this similar cycle. And so I started to see this. It seems like, and we seem to go into this, see my previous YouTube video, the second wave of ascension. It seems a lot of people seem to be connected into this new cycle, and we seem to have begun a new cycle. So it's a great time to talk about how this is connected into the spiral nature of reality. It's not cyclical, it's spiral. It's not circular. It's not going round and round in circles. We're not just going back to where we started and starting again and getting nowhere over a 12,000 year cycle, because this is a 12,000 year cycle, is quite a big one. Because it's, I believe, the cycle at the precession of the equinoxes, and we're now moved into the age of Aquarius. And like 12,000 years ago, we were at the heights of Atlantis. That's another story, and I probably will be doing more about that because I've been getting a lot of information about Atlantis. So, so it's spiral in nature. It's not circular. It's spiral. We're always evolving. Like when we get back to where Atlantis was in 24,000 years, we won't just be at the same height of consciousness as Atlantis as we were 12,000 years ago. We'll be at that same peak of conscious evolution for our plane, but it'll be on a new octave. It'll be on a whole new level. It'll be on a whole higher state of awareness. So perhaps this explains how it's spiral in nature. And like the shell, like it goes round, and you do one revolution and you've manifested a small reality, and you do another revolution and you manifested a bigger reality, and you do another revolution and you manifested a massive reality. And so we can see with this that the secret is to find our purpose and our calling, our highest excitement, decide what it is we want to manifest long term. And it can't always be clear. Don't get too attached to this, because it's more important we follow our excitement moment to moment, because it can send us off kilter, getting mental. If it's no longer exciting, we need to move in a different direction, and it's all connected to some level. But for me personally, I seem to be coming to some sort of deep understanding of what my calling is on earth and what it is I wish to manifest in this reality. And it is, believe it or not, you may have guessed, to do with extraterrestrial contact. And of course, not just extraterrestrial contact, because extraterrestrial contact is spiritual awakening, is self-realization. They're all connected. Like the expansion of consciousness expands into extraterrestrial contact, but it also expands into self-realization and infinity. And extraterrestrial contact is really about self-realization and expansion of consciousness. That is the message that all the ETs bring to us, at least all the ones I'm aware of, the positive ones. And And that is what's most important. And they are a reflection of this, a reflection of our own expansion of consciousness. And they continue to tell us that it's us that are more important. It's our expansion of consciousness that is paramount here, not them. They're just here to show us the way. And we'll be very happy to have contact with us as we expand our consciousness. And so I see part of my calling and my path as a teacher of extraterrestrial contact, as also as a teacher of self-realization, of spirituality, of finding our calling and our expanded consciousness in this reality, because they are one and the same. It's like extraterrestrial contact is really my passion is self-realization, is attaining the ultimate nature of consciousness in this reality. But my flavor of self-realization, my path to self-realization, as we all have an individual path to self-realization, it can be anything. As I believe Osho said, anything that we focus our consciousness on with fullest intent will lead us home to our true self, to our true nature. And so we all have our own unique path. And my unique flavor of self-realization is extraterrestrial contact. And because I believe it's my path, it's my higher self's calling, but also from a physical, that's not quite right. So I was going to say something that didn't resonate. All paths are equal to the one. And so my path being the path of introducing humanity to our extraterrestrial cousins, we can see that how I can use this. So to use the spiral here, perhaps we start off there. Let's say we're at the beginning of a new spiral. So we'll go on to the second square, because the first square was the last 9-year cycle. But we'll talk about the second square, which represents this 9-year cycle. So we're at the beginning of this square, and this square here represents 9 years. And so we're right at the beginning of this 9-year square. And what I'm doing now is I've become very clear in my head that extraterrestrial contact is a big part of my calling. Might change tomorrow. They always shake me about, but I seem pretty clear now. So what I'm focusing on at the beginning of this cycle is beginning to create a foundation to move forwards, sharing my knowledge of extraterrestrial contact in the world in a way that I can most readily relate all the information that's in here and in here, because in here is in here, because in here is in us, in a way that I can relate this information most efficiently to my audience, to whoever wishes to accept this audience. So I'm putting together a way of doing this, perhaps announce this at another time. It's a big project I'm working on. I've only just started, so I'll announce this in the future. But I'm putting together, I'm doing a book as well. So there's a lot of stuff. So I'm putting together a lot of platforms, some basic foundations to begin to get this information out in a way that I can be financially supported as well, because we need financial support so we can focus on our passion full time. See, I can't, I'll probably always be gardening. I love gardening, but if I'm gardening like 35, 40 hours a week to pay the bills, I obviously can't spend the conscious time on extraterrestrial contact to accelerate it to its fullest potential. So we all need finances to be supported in our passion. And so we're going to move through this 9 years, and I put together sort of a loose plan, like create a foundation. I'm breaking it down to 3 cycles of 3. So the first 3 years, I'm going to sort of take it steady, just keep getting the information out there, building this solid platform. I believe the next 3-year cycles will signify a big expansion of consciousness, and based on the last 9-year cycle. And so this first 3 years of this 9-year cycle is all about, I guess, excitement around contact. I've had these big realizations of nature over the last 12 months, these big contact experiences, lots of multidimensional infinite consciousness experiences. And so the next 3 years, like the previous 3 years, 2009 to 2012, is all going to be about integrating this information. So I'm not like pushing myself too hard, because I understand I'm going through an integration process, and I'm still partial in physical recovery from this integration process because it was very intense for me. So the loose plan is for the next 3 years is to understand that I'm probably going to go through an intense integration process, and also talking about this, getting excited about ET contact, getting the message out there, and doing whatever flows. So for the 3 years of this square here, the second biggest square, I'm going to be focusing on that based on what I believe happened in the last 9-year cycle, the first square in this diagram. And it's going to be like an integration process. So very excited about what's happened, you know, sort of taking it in. Wow, this is amazing. I'm an infinite multidimensional extraterrestrial from another dimension. Wow. And so I'm going to be into it over the next 3 years. And then the next 3 years of this 9-year cycle, so years 4, 5, and 6, based on what I experienced in the first 9-year cycle from 2000 from like September 2012 through September 2015 was, I guess, a big expansion of consciousness. It was towards the end of 2012, coming very close to the fabled December the 21st, 2012 date, which I do believe was a correct date and represented a lot of things. Mainly the tipping points between our reality, our Earth being overall positively orientated and its previous reality being overall negatively oriented. And so just prior to 2012, I went through this huge expansion of, what happened actually, I came into deep stillness. I came into deep peace, sort of. I was following Muji quite a bit. I spent some time in Muji at the beginning of 2013. And this deep peace state came over me, which I haven't really regained fully ever since. It's been a big seeking of mine to gain that deep peace, infinite peace, which I can access more and more, but it's not like my predominant state like it was for months back then. And so I believe this will reflect back in this continuing 9-year cycle from sort of 2021, September 2021 to September 2024. So this will be a very joyful period, a very expansive period, a period of resting in my new state of consciousness, if it occurs. Let's hope. So I believe that I will mirror this from the previous 9-year cycle, this deep descendance into peace, we could call it, even though it's an ascendance, really. And so this 3 years, so the 3 years between 2021 and 2024 will be more about spiritual expansion, just resting in the joy, really deepening my self-realization, going deeply within, going within more rather than being more expressive in the outer reality, more going inwards, like attaining the highest levels of self-realization, peace, joy, and bliss I can within myself, ready for the next phase, which is the 3-year cycle at the end of this 9-year cycle, this 9-year cycle we're on here, which will be this is where I believe, according to the previous 9-year cycle, the years of 2015 to 2018, which in this next 9-year cycle, on the next cycle, will be what I just said, 2014 to 2027, something like that. September 2014 to September 2027. I believe from what I've learned from the previous cycle is that will be a big period of manifestation, going out into the world, really going full pelt with getting this message of extraterrestrial contact out to reality, really aligning with my calling and just going ching, 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 focused. I'll have built on the abundance and manifestation that I've created over the previous 6 years, the stability, so I can be fully supported in my excitement full time. And the period up to September 2027, those last 3 years, will be a point of intense focus on getting this message out to reality and spreading this message to as many people and working with as many people to enable people. So we're on the second, so on the bigger cycle. So this is the bigger cycle than the first cycle. So at the end of the first 9-year cycle, I had physical contact myself and went aboard a ship. But the idea is at the end of the second year cycle, this is going to have, like, as you can see, like, grown exponentially. Because I guess we call this an exponential growth, this spiral, because it's growing like doubling, then doubling, and doubling, and doubling. I think we call this exponential. And so at the end of this 9-year cycle in 2027, the aim is that we're building on the end of the past 9-year cycle, because it's not just circular, it's spiral in nature. It's always growing, it's always doubling. Like that thickness is much thicker than, like if you see on each spiral, each revolution of the spiral, it gets much bigger and bigger. It's growing exponentially. We're building on it, but it's getting much bigger. So the idea is at the end of this 9-year cycle, it's going to grow. It's growing because we're in this cyclical nature, and we're going to hit the vibrational frequencies that were highly compatible for me to have the experience aboard the Yahyel craft. At that 9-year cycle, everything was correct. The universal frequencies were correct. The planets were in the right locations. My consciousness had grown to a certain place in its evolution where I was ready for this contact. Everything was in the right frequencies and parameters for that contact to occur at the end of 2018. And so the idea is that in 9 years, that we will be repeating this cycle, and it will be the same frequencies again, the same energies, the same kind of parameters, the same planetary alignments, the same universal consciousness. I will be coming to a similar place in my own realization where I'm ready for a new level of contact. And the idea, but so it's happening again. I'm going to have contact again, but this time it's grown. So 2 ways it could grow. It could grow like the spiral, like ever getting bigger. It could either manifest in me having physical, fully conscious contact this time and not forgetting any of it and just being conscious and awake all the time until I get off the craft, and then being able to directly relay it via a Facebook live stream or YouTube. And probably Facebook, because it was Facebook last time. We were in a cyclical nature and things tend to happen like this. If, say, Facebook still exists in 9 years, 7 years, 8 years, Facebook might be dead by then because something new will have come along. It isn't just an emotional click trigger. So, yeah, so at the end of this cycle in 2027, we're going to have gone through all the same patterns or similar patterns that I went through in the previous 9-year cycle. But this time it's going to manifest in a greater way, with many people having contact and me having perhaps conscious contact. And so what's going to occur then is we're going to enter into a new spiral. So we enter into the 3rd spiral in this reality. And so this would be the cycle of 2027 to 2036, which, if you check out my website, this is the timeline I've given for open contact. So in this 3rd section of the spiral, we're going to be going through the same process again in a repetitive nature. We're going to be going through. So many people will have had contact at the end of 2027. I will have had a very profound conscious contact experience. The next 3 years, 2027 to 2030, will be me integrating that process, getting excited about it. Wow, this has really happened. Then 2030 to 2033, which is a very significant number for me, will be an even deeper state of self-realization, going deeply into myself, deeply into the nature of reality, really enjoying and reveling and embodying these high states of consciousness. And then 2033 to 2036 will again be a period of accelerated manifestation, getting this new message of collective contact and conscious contact out into the reality, and really growing a new project. Like perhaps it will be like a virtual reality website where people can like actually have channeled conversations with 3D virtual reality images of their ET counterparts or something like this, because it'll be growing. It's the next phase. And then at the end of that cycle at 2036, there will again be this vibrational window for conscious contact, and I will have a mind-blowing contact experience. I'll perhaps go on a ship and visit another dimensional reality and actually spend some time on another planet or in another dimension somehow. And many people will be having contact. Many people will be having these experiences with the Yahyel, multidimensional, interdimensional contact experiences. And so again, the cycle is repeated, but it's grown an octave. It's expanded cyclically in nature. And then, so we'll start into the next cycle, which would be 2036 to 2045. And so it's starting again, 2036 to 2039. I'm going to be like integrating my interdimensional trip to another galaxy, processing it, integrating in my reality. 2039 to 2042, deeper and deeper spiritual realization into the ultimate oneness of reality, becoming like an ultimate sat guru, ultimate enlightenment guy. 20 2030, I've lost count. Well, 2042 to 2045 will be a process of getting all this information of my super Satguru, interdimensional, multidimensional, hyperdimensional, quantum traveling portal technology experiences out to reality in an ecstatic way, using our new holographic interface, smart screen, smart reality interweb that has just been invented. And we culminate in 2045 with like everyone's having open contact on a mass scale. And then it begins again here, and you see how this cyclical nature is going round and round and round and round and round. So when we understand this and understand that this is how reality works, and this is why the ancient Egyptians were so obsessed with sacred geometry and the golden mean and the golden ratio, and how this is related to our reality manifestation process. And the more we focus on our excitement, our passion, our calling, the more it expands, it grows, it spirals, it spirals, it spirals, like the nature of reality. And we're actually using the building blocks of creation, the science of God, the science of creation itself, to bring our purpose, our calling, and our excitement into this reality. Shivai. So does that make sense, guys? Did you understand what I'm getting at? So we see how it's always building, it's always expanding. It's like nature is cyclical. We go through the same patterns again, but every time we come around to a new circle, there's an opportunity to build and to grow and expand on that reality. And of course, this ends up going forever. Like now I've aligned with my calling from a human perspective. It's like it can really only expand and expand and expand and expand and expand, unless I choose to take on an incarnation of complete forgetting again, in which I might have to start again. But that would be a new cycle, a new octave. So it wouldn't be starting again. It'd be a new spiral. So let me know if that all makes sense, guys. Does everyone has their own or born with particular sacred geometry? So I'm not sure what you mean, Lilypad. Can you rephrase? Someone says, in my world, I meet the 7-year cycle most. Yes, 7-year cycle seems to be quite common. I've heard a lot of people talk about 7-year cycles. I've not really heard anyone talk about 9-year cycles. I think Bashar did a video called Cycles of 9, which I still haven't watched, but this is what sort of gave me the clue that pointed me to a lot of experiences in my own reality that were pointing to this. I think I might have to watch that Cycles of 9, Bashar. Hey, Tinfoil. Yeah, and perhaps if I'm wearing this Billionaire Boys Club t-shirt now, at the beginning of the next cycle, I'll be closer to be a billionaire. And the beginning of the next cycle, the cycle starting in 2046, I'll really be a billionaire. Because by then I'll have got over my attachments to money and need and ego, and I'll be able to like use it purely for interdimensional contact. Hi, Mishari. I think Lilypad is asking if people have a particular bond to any sacred geometry. Possibly. Like because this seems relevant to my calling and a lot of what I talk about. perhaps this is why I've always been drawn to, because I've been drawn to sacred geometry for years, and it's really only over the last few months that it's finally clicked for me that how it all relates to everything I'm doing. I didn't understand. I was like, I'm interested in sacred geometry. I don't really know what it's about. I mean, it's relevant for, I use it in my gardening work in designing gardens. It's but I don't really understand. I didn't really understand like what it was about and why I was so fascinated with it until very recently, and now I'm starting to see what I'm talking about today. So yeah, so perhaps other people that specifically relevant for them might be more drawn to to this part of the sacred geometry, whatever that talks about, because I don't fully understand what's being depicted here. I think we've got something to do with the pentagram, which symbolizes humanity, the number 5. See that 1, 2, 3, head, arm, leg, 5 points, and how it shows the pentagram. We've got a circle and a square. There's something that these secret societies were obsessed with called squaring the circle. I don't fully understand. It was something to do with the sacred nature of reality. And yeah, and also just quickly while we're talking about it, so how this steps, like how I was saying, 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 1 = 3, 3 + 2 = 5, 5 + 3 = 8, 8 + 5 = 13, 13 + 8 = 21. How we're always adding the sum to the last previous number. How that produces this. It's also this number here, 1.618. Like so 5 is 1.618 times 2. And I think that's right. I might just actually just check this to make sure it's correct. So 2 times 1.618. Oh, shit. 2 times 1.611. 8. Oh, not working. No, it's wrong. 2 times. That can't be right. Oh, it's interesting. Oh no, it's 3, isn't it? Yeah, 2 times 1.618 equals 3. Times 1.618. Well, it almost does anyway, so I'm sure that's right. So yeah, so what we're seeing in the finger here, what the finger's pointing to, is that and 1.618 is how we get the next figure, like that adds up like that. And so the finger is 1.618 times longer over the whole length than it is from the knuckle to the bone there. Anyway, I think we got to the bottom of this transmission. So thanks, guys. I hope you got something from this, and I'm probably going to be doing more live streams soon. I seem to be getting back into the momentum of stuff creation. So thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day, and I shall see you in another live stream in another Here and Now. Shivai. Good day.